Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese, and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'd like to acknowledge that we're recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. So today we're going to be talking about what makes the difference in change and what do people miss the most when it comes to implementing change. And in some ways, this is the journey of someone who has worked in this industry for 20 odd years in various roles, various industries, implementing a range of change. And all of these experiences have led me to understanding what lies beneath when it comes to change and what actually makes the difference. And if you're a change practitioner, if you're a leader, if you're someone who has gone and implemented similar change in a number of organizations or in a number of ways, yet done it without a framework, then these are the things I want to focus on for you. So regardless of where you're at the moment in your career or at work, these are the things that do make the difference. And I focus on this in my Changing Projects course, as well as other courses that I run, because it's almost this thing where after many times of succeeding and failing when it comes to change, or not achieving as much as you would like when you're introducing change, you start to understand what makes the difference. So let's cover it off. And if you go to myvirtualchangemanager.com, I'm actually going to put this diagram on the latest blog post. So if you look up Next Level Change Success Season 5, Episode 12, then you will see the diagram in relation to this of what makes the difference. And if I can describe it to you, it's a triangle, and at the base of that triangle is you and your approach. Everything that you do, every conversation you have, how you engage people, how you take the time to explore who needs to be engaged on the change, and how you understand power dynamics in an organization does make such a huge difference. The reason I work in change and the reason why I've taken leadership roles at different times in my career, but also then taken change manager roles, then looked at setting up a change practice, all of these different roles, part of what I like to do is to explore and understand my own belief systems through understanding patterning that arises when I go into a workplace. More and more people are raising their own self-awareness about their behaviors, and this is a really great thing that consciously we can start to explore belief systems, understand that workplaces and teams, that when you start to see patterns of not just your behaviors but responses that you're getting in relation to your behaviors, you start to understand that the same themes and patterning shows up for you to explore how you can shift your mindset, your approach, your ways of working to get a better outcome. And the control paradigm says that you are in control at all times of your behavior, not that it's your outside in thinking that the organization or teams or different people are doing things to you. Your emotive response that you have, the actions you take, the beliefs you hold are yours, and that is where your power base is. So let's explore this a little bit insofar as my world. If I find I am struggling to get traction, if I am really struggling to gel with a team, or if I'm struggling to get momentum with a change, I need to consider how I am behaving in this, what I have done, how I have set up my world to have this experience, and consider how I need to change my approach, how I need to reconfigure potentially a belief I have about a certain stakeholder or a certain business area so that I can have an easier path of it. When I choose to reflect on my behavior and my actions and change those actions, I get a different reaction and response. If I am too emotive about things, and sure, there are days when I am just frustrated, and I might have woken up frustrated and wanting to fight the world, then I am pretty sure that my day is going to show up to have a lot of friction. So once again, it's coming down to how can I break that pattern? It might be going for a walk. It might be listening to music and a song that can shift my emotional state so that I can have a better day of it. So knowing that you create your own reality, which many, many people struggle with, because if they're having a tough time of it, then they can't possibly comprehend how they're playing a role in that way of working and that struggle. But definitely if you unpack, well, what's coming up for me? Why is it coming up for me? Like, why am I having such a strong emotive reaction? Is this something I've experienced before? Okay, is there something I can change in this? It can actually mean that you have more good days than frustration days, because I also want to be realistic about this. Some days are just a struggle. Some days, because of a whole raft of things and things outside of your control, and when I talk about things outside of your control, what I'm talking about is whether you call it universe, fate, just the world, something may happen that regardless of how much you're focused on yourself, that something just enters your sphere that knocks you off center. Accepting that this is something you can't change, then and taking back your control can help you move more smoothly through that. And then also considering, and from a learning perspective, thinking, well, what lesson can I learn from this? And sometimes the lesson is that you can't control everything. And so life and the lessons that you learn and integrating that into the way you approach your work and the way you're approaching the challenges that you face at the moment when it comes to change is powerful. So in that triangle at the base is you, and it's there for a reason, because you are always in control. Let's reframe this a little bit, because that means you can control everything, which you can't, but certainly you have the power base. And never forget that there are certain things within your control and things outside of that control sphere that you need to simply accept for your own benefit, so that you can be more centered, so that you can show up more powerfully in your change approach and in the way you're engaging with people. There is a certain amount of vulnerability that change managers, change practitioners, and also leaders, that if you embrace your vulnerability more and ask for help, connect through to people, ensure that you're being insatiably curious, which I think is something that is really powerful, to not ask questions in a challenging way. You're asking questions to understand and think, what value can I add to this? And they're two totally different energies. So definitely approaching things in a space where you're not feeling threatened or antagonistic. And if your way of working is to focus on negative things, to highlight to people the gaps in their approaches versus focus on simply what you can offer. and support that you can offer, then you will find it difficult to move around in the change sphere, and you won't achieve everything that you want to achieve. So the next layer isn't just you, and there's a fair bit of exploration in that base layer, and also in regards to how you develop your change intelligence, which is all about you. The next layer really is about the framework, and so much focus is on frameworks and tools. And what makes the difference is definitely the you in all of this. So always remember that. And that is why we do explore that base level with you. It makes the biggest difference in our courses and how we approach things, because we don't want to not have that conversation. We want to dive into that conversation, and that makes a big difference, because most organizations will coach in or teach a framework, and that is the how-to. And the how-to, when it comes to the framework, is understanding that change process. It is helpful to understand that process without doubt, to have a structure that you can apply, but with flexibility, with an understanding that sometimes you can't follow the bouncing ball, that if there isn't a complementary project or program structure, or if you're not familiar with how to place these structures or talk about these structures, implement these structures to help you get the clarity and momentum you need in the change, then you're going to struggle as well. So it's definitely the framework, what tools, templates are there, the process, the change process. And I don't necessarily mean the change process that people go through. This is about the change process that you can facilitate, guide, support when it comes to change to get a degree of success. I always talk about success when it comes to change is in degrees. It's not an absolute. It's not you are successful or you aren't. Take a learning approach. You will learn every time you implement change in an organization, and you will get better and better at it if you do learn the lessons and understand how they connect. And then that middle level of framework has a range of tools, and you will start to, if you have developed your connected thinking, understand that there are other disciplines that you can leverage as well in your change approach, which can just work with different audiences, because everyone has different mind maps. We're becoming aware more of neurodiversity and how that works in organizations, or in individuals, I should say, and the need to communicate at different levels because of everyone's neurodiversity, and what works for some doesn't work for others, which is a fundamental of change. And so understanding this framework, that sometimes it will work in organizations, sometimes you're doing it, not explaining it, sometimes you're explaining it while you're doing it, sometimes you are there to coach in the framework and so others can implement it. So you have to take different approaches at different times. And then that is the middle layer, the framework, the tooling, how you apply it, all with the fundamental of you and how you're approaching things at the base. And then at the top of the triangle, or top of the pointy end, is the experience that you have and how you're applying the framework, the approaches that you're wanting to, the challenges you're having on the personal space insofar as working in organizations, working with different teams, your ability to team with others. And then all of that experience helps cycle through to learning all the way through the layers. Understanding in frameworks what works, what doesn't, what resonates for people, what elements can people do themselves versus how would you facilitate, and how would you coach and work with team members to get, for example, communications sorted? How do you work with team members to get guides to happen? How do you make sure that you have the feedback elements really available, open for others? So these are the elements that experience really helps have you gain. You are going to improve in both your self-understanding as well as the understanding of frameworks and tooling through application. And hopefully in all levels, you're talking growth. Because if you are spending so much time at work and if you are implementing change, sometimes it's about how you grow as a person, your communication skills, how vulnerable you might be, how open you are to ideas from others, how connected you are, because that is one of the fundamental challenges of change, is you being humble enough, open enough to facilitate and not to control and not to grandstand in the space of change from an ego perspective, and how you can learn and how you can support others to learn, inspire others to grow through the process in a safe way. It is very, very important. If you work on those things and if you're open to understanding those things, you are absolutely going to start to understand through experience that this model is where it's at when it comes to change and effectively introducing change. So if you're currently in a corporate support service function and you're needing to influence others to work a different way, then think about this pyramid of thought around how am I approaching it? What framework am I using? Do I have the right tools and understanding of those tools? And then how am I capturing my experience? How am I going in and understanding this experience, which then links back to how you're approaching change and the tools you're using, and how are you adapting constantly and learning and growing as a person through this journey. So have a think about those things, just a couple of reflection points, and covering off that these are the things that make the difference. How you grow as a person, how you're utilizing the tools that you have and the framework that you might implement or need to help you push clarity and to create momentum in your change. And then also the experience that you have. How are you seeing your environment? How are you experiencing as you go and implement the change, the resistance points? What are you learning about yourself in that? Are you finding it frustrating? Are you finding it, do you reframe it as a challenge? Are you understanding that leadership plays a big role, which is the framework element? How are you adapting your approach to ensure that you've got that engagement? These are the lessons we learn as we go through and we work in this space of change, which is growing at a rapid rate because of the rate of change we're all experiencing. If you grow in line with that, you will benefit, the people you work with will benefit, and everyone will win. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it's given you some food for thought. I hope you understand what makes the difference when it comes to change. Definitely understanding these layers makes all the difference, even if you're at the very beginning of your change journey. And come to my virtualchangemanager.com. See what we have on offer. We are looking to ensure that everyone is understanding these layers that do make the difference. And just remember that change matters because your people, your purpose, who you are, your organization, your teams, they all matter. Hope you have a great day.